Hey there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back. I'm your host, PattSun, and today we're gonna be taking a look at r/Surviving Infidelity, where OP just activated his Ultra Instinct. Let's begin. Am I being paranoid? Posted by Reddit user Throwaway Hair.
Hey everyone, I feel a bit ashamed for typing this, but I've created a throwaway anyway, so if a kind soul could advise me it would be great. I've been in a relationship for the past year. Everything is going well and I'm taking it slow, so I've never really gave it too much thought. But recently, I've felt a bit insecure and I'm not sure if it's objective or because of past traumas from my ex cheating on me quite some time ago, 3 years ago. Here are a few things that caused me to doubt. She told me out of the blue that this guy from Bumble recontacted her on Instagram. Apparently nothing had happened. They met before we got together, they just went on a lunch date back then. I don't really care anyway because I was going on dates myself as well before meeting her and it's the past. She told me that she told him that she's now with someone. When I looked a bit perplexed, she said, "You can read the conversation if you want, I can show you everything." I said no, I trust you, but my stupid brain is now thinking the worst and I regret not saying yes now just to see her reaction. I know this looks super paranoid, but my ex told me stuff like this about her ex that recontacted her out of the blue. Turned out it was a white lie because she was still sleeping with him, so I'm being super careful now on why would somebody just tell me this without me even asking for it. When she was showing me photos on her phone, they were a couple of recent selfies. The kind she always sends me where she looks super pretty with makeup. Nothing sexual but a bit sexy, it's just something we do often to maintain some fun when we're not physically around each other. But she didn't send them to me, so I asked why she took selfies of her like this and she told me it was because she felt pretty that day. She sent me a kiss emoji followed by this one. She never uses this one with me, so it kinda looked like it popped up automatically after the kiss emoji. She said, "Sorry, wrong one, haha." Personally, I have the heart emoji showing up after the kiss emoji for instance because I use it often in this order, so if I make a mistake typing fast, I don't get this one randomly popping up. There's a guy often showing up when she's on her phone. It's not the guy she told me recontacted her, but another one. She actually showed me her Instagram conversations, at least the top of the inbox, last time to show that she sent me a reel. We were comparing our Instagram inbox because somehow I didn't receive what she sent me and there was this guy just before me, the day she took the selfie. Now she didn't look super worried and didn't even try to hide it or close her inbox fast. She just showed me her phone for a good 5 seconds, explaining that she sent me the reel. So I didn't even ask who it was, but maybe I should have. Last but not least, a couple of weeks ago she was being a bit more suspicious on Instagram. We were looking at something on her phone and she seemed a bit worried about opening our conversation chat. Silly things, we were just trying to check if she had access to the same filters. Like she really went super fast in our conversation, almost like she didn't want me to see the other people in her inbox. So that's a bit weird compared to 2 days ago where she showed me everything. Anyway, I'm not sure if I'm being paranoid or not. It sure does look like it when I write it, but at the same time there's some minor things that just looked off recently. What would you do? I don't have access to her phone just so you know, and I'm not sure this is something I should ask for as it seems a bit too much. And now for OP's update. So she came to my apartment, we talked a little bit and then I told her I had something to tell her. I basically told everything I said here so I won't go into too much details. Her phone was on the table and she hadn't touched it during the whole time after she arrived. She said something like okay, but before I reply you can check my messages. So first thing we went through her entire chat with the guy I saw show up a lot recently. Actually, they were not talking that much and nothing seemed deleted. He was just recently asking stuff about Japan because him and his wife had moved there recently and my girlfriend used to live there. They kept it super normal. Then I asked if I could see the discussion with the Bumble guy who recontacted her to see if she really told me all the truth or not. There was almost word for word what she told me. She told him she's got a boyfriend now and the conversation was how she described it to me a couple of weeks earlier. She gave me her passcode. I gave her mine. And she didn't seem pissed at my reaction. She actually told me that she understands, although she haven't been cheated on in the past, but she put herself in my shoes. So yeah, overall a good ending for once. Thank you for your support everyone.
OP, if there is something that I learned from reading all these stories on my channel, is that you should always trust your gut feeling. Sure, there might be nothing wrong on the surface, but it's still possible that there is more to it. So up your detective skills and get concrete evidence of anything disrespectful that might be going on. But if there is truly nothing, then you better treat her to a fancy dinner. And if there is, then at least you dodged a bullet. And now for today's second story. Am I the asshole for jumping out of the way when my niece and nephew tried to push me into the pool, resulting in them falling in? Posted by Reddit user Scared Weakness.
Happened today. My folks decided to host a barbecue because I guess that's what older people do. I declined because I really don't like my two sisters, their husbands or their kids. Wife and I are child-free. Mom then pressured the wife. Long story short, we went. By the time we arrived, there were about 20 people there. My sisters and their husbands were already solidly buzzed. Drunk really. My mom was spending 100% of her time trying to keep the nieces and nephews, ages 7 to 11, more or less under control. My dad had strategically retreated to the whirlpool part of the pool with a small cooler full of beers. Wife and I made small talk with miscellaneous people, ate food and had a frozen margarita. Sisters and brother-in-laws took turns criticizing us for being late, not being in our swimsuits and screwing up the vibe. Whatever, typical suburban summer get-together. About 45 minutes in, two of the kids ran at one of the neighbor guests, who was standing next to the pool, and pushed her in. She was at the pool steps, stumbled in but didn't fall, so only got half wet. She was clearly very unhappy about it, but she didn't make a scene. Just went over to where the parents were, grabbed their towels, dried herself off and left. Sisters and brother-in-laws thought it was all great fun. A bit later, I was standing a few feet away from the pool chatting away with someone. I saw 3 of the kids running full tilt at me from the corner of my eye. Obviously I was next. Not that it's terribly difficult to outwit young kids, but I just jumped out of their way at the last second. All 3 of them ran straight into the pool at full speed. Most of the other guests, including my wife and me, started laughing. But their moms, who as I mentioned were pretty shit-faced, absolutely freaked out. Apparently 2 of the kids couldn't swim even though they were in swimsuits. Since I wasn't in swim gear, I stepped back from the pool and let other people fish the kids out. The kids were bawling their heads off like they'd lost a limb. At that point, all hell broke loose. The 4 drunk parents were yelling at everyone in general and me in particular for nearly letting their kids drown, and also because 2 of the kids had been videoing the trick using their parents' iPhones, which were now at the bottom of the pool. One of my brother-in-laws got into the pool to try to retrieve the phones, but his fat-ass body and blood-to-alcohol concentration made that impossible. No one else volunteered to help, unsurprising given that my sisters were still bitching at everyone. I told my sisters it was their job to watch to their kids and that if anything had happened to them, it would have been their responsibility, not mine. There were some pretty strong words on both sides. Wife and I left after the other brother-in-law fell over and face planted while yelling at us. Now they're saying I should have let the little shits knock me into the pool and have their fun and ruin my phone. So, am I the asshole? Side note, Dad, of course, never got out of the whirlpool. Now for OP's first update. First off, my folks tell me that my nieces and nephews are all good swimmers and that they use the pool all the time. The 7-year-old is still a beginner, but he loves the water. My sister just said they couldn't swim, so I'd look bad. To be fair, none of the kids are allowed in the deep end, which is where they fell in. It was the 2 10-year-olds and the 9-year-old who tried to push me into the pool. After we left, the party ended on a pretty sour note. My drunk brother-in-law, who face planted while yelling at me, had to go to an urgent care place and get his face stitched up. He was too toasted to drive, so Dad took him. Dad was very not happy about this. Late that evening, my sisters started a group text and said some really nasty crap. Their husbands threw in a few comments as well. Wife and I blocked the 4 of them. My mom called me. She was pretty upset about what they said. She and Dad were in the chat and I don't blame her. Because of the texts, my folks insisted my sisters and brother-in-laws come over the next day, Sunday, without their kids to get some things straight and lay down some ground rules, Mom's wording. The result was a contrite, if unenthusiastic apology from the siblings via my mom's phone. I'm glad my wife was with me when they called. Her hard stares kept me from saying what I wanted to. I just told them thanks and that we felt no need to discuss it further. Since I thought things were settled, I unblocked them. That evening I got a text from one of the brother-in-laws telling me the phones cost thousands of dollars and asking when I'd be paying for them. What the fuck? I replied, never, took a screenshot of his text and forwarded it to my folks with a note that we were done with this nonsense. We're going no contact with my sisters and their spouses and not to invite us to any more holidays or get-togethers if they'll be present. Then I blocked the sisters and their spouses again. At that point the shit really hit the fan. Dad called them and ripped them a new one. Among other things, he told them the grandkids were not welcome at his place indefinitely, since my mom regularly provides free babysitting. That got them pretty rattled. He also banned them from using the vacation house and told them my wife and I actually own it, not he and mom. This completely freaked them out. Both of my sisters and their families used the place a lot, including having their friends up for weekend getaways. This was very much out of character for my folks. They'd clearly had it, and for reference, I never wanted my sisters to know we owned the place. We bought it for my folks. They'd always wanted a place in the mountains. Keeping the ownership quiet was just a way to avoid drama with my siblings. A couple of days later, my sisters and their husbands came to our place unannounced to apologize in person. We were out to dinner and they left a note. One sister also called me at work too. I sent her to voicemail. We've decided being no contact is the best thing for the indefinite future and haven't interacted with them for the last 3+ weeks. Personally, I'm done. They can go pound sand. And now, for OP's final update. Well, it's been an interesting last few days. I thought the shit had hit the fan before, but it was more of a fart compared to what's happened this week. For this to make sense, I need to provide some financial context. My folks haven't ever been any good at saving money. I've been doing their taxes for years, so I know pretty much everything about them money-wise. Their house is paid for and they have minimal debt, but they didn't save much for retirement. Both of them get Social Security, Dad gets a solid pension, and they have a bit of savings, but there's no treasure chest in the basement. I bought their current car for them after they retired as a retirement present, so they could have something nice to drive. It was the first car in probably 20 years they didn't lease. My sisters are convinced the folks are dripping with money and that our parents will be leaving the two of them everything since I don't need more money, so they've never cared about saving either. Turns out my oldest sister and her husband, they have 3 kids, have been living beyond their means for some time and are in financial straits. They've maxed out their credit cards and are behind on their car leases, to the point that one is about to get repossessed. He bragged in the past about making X per year, but it turns out to be about half that. She confessed all this to Mom on Tuesday because they need a loan and because this was a WTF moment for Mom and Dad. That for the last 3 years, instead of staying at the vacation house regularly, she's actually been renting it out once a month or so and pocketing the cash. We're talking $2,000+ for a weekend and at least $4,000 for a week. With her being cut off from using the place, she's had to cancel one group already. She's now worried they'll lose everything. My folks aren't in any position to give them a loan. My other sister was aware of her renting out the place but of course hasn't ever said anything. I suspect she's done the same thing as well because I went up there once to drop off an ATV I'd had worked on and there was a family there who claimed to be staying there with my sister and her family, and that they'd gone to town for something. At the time I let it go, I figured she'd loaned out the house to some friends. But I've always wondered. I found all this out through my folks who are pretty stressed out about it. Mom more than Dad. He's mainly just pissed off about it all. I know Dad feels betrayed. And I imagine he's embarrassed that he's in no position to help his daughter out. He did reiterate that as long as it's up to him, the girls won't be using the vacation home anytime soon. My folks let me know what's going on because they figured my sisters would put a full court press on me next, and they were right. On Thursday my sisters came to our place again, without husbands this time, and waited outside the door until I got home. I had to choose between fighting with them in public, them making a scene if I went in without them, or letting them in, so I let them in. I got a bullshit story from the older sister with the younger one backing her up, regarding why I needed to let them use the mountain place again immediately. They also said I've been a shitty brother and that I needed to step up and plan on paying for their kids' college tuition since that's what family does. I let them pitch their story, then called them out based on what my folks had told me. Things went to shit from there. There was denial, crying, cursing, yelling, you name it. I swear my ears are still ringing 2 days later. Won't lie, I said some really mean and shitty things to them, but nothing that wasn't true. They finally left after about an hour. After that I took a shower and laid down. When I got up, my wife was home and her first words were that she'd had to block more phone numbers because my sisters were blowing up our phones from new ones. Folks messaged me yesterday asking me to call. I'm sure my sisters have told them some bullshit version of what happened, but I'm not up to rehashing it yet. I'm usually a pretty energetic person, but this drama has me beaten down. I had just enough energy today to drive up to the vacation house and padlock the entrance gate shut. I'm the only one with a key. I'm guessing that will be enough to ensure my siblings leave the place alone. They'd probably die trying to walk 400 yards uphill to get to the house.
I knew from the very beginning that this is way more than just the prank of a few little shits. But damn, what an escalation from start to finish. This is why I sincerely believe that cutting off certain family members is the healthier thing to do, rather than tolerating their bullshit behavior because that's what families do. Viewer support is the best way for me to remain independent and continue bringing you these daily videos, which will always be here on my channels for you to watch absolutely free. So please consider subscribing to me on Rumble and on YouTube. Both will be linked in the description box down below. Thanks for listening, everyone. If you even somewhat enjoyed today's story, make sure to give this video a thumbs up, and if you really like it, consider subscribing to PattSun to never miss a future upload. Stay strong.